And joining me now is one of the children of the late Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, Nicolas Mulroney. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me today. Yeah.
Of course. So I suppose I just want to start out here because I was watching Ben Mulroney in another interview that he was doing and really just talking about how the family as a whole is kind of trying to make the best of the situation and talk about it in kind of a positive light, reflecting on what he, did for Canada. I saw a poll just a little while ago too that indicated that 83% of Canadians were, proud in some way of the work that Brian Mulroney did. So I guess just what have you been thinking about ever since kind of late February when the news first broke?
Yeah, obviously, maybe going back just a little bit because, as you know, my dad is Irish, so he spoke about his impending ending at some point. So even all of that chatter never really prepared us for what was to occur and what didn't prepare. We certainly were not prepared for the outpouring of support from friends and foes, uh, from people inside Canada, outside of Canada, what he meant to them. It's been an absolute surprise for us. So, it's been really tough for us. And, but what he's done is he's gifted us an opportunity to get together as a family and remember him. We've had some great stories, and we've been sharing them around the dinner table. It would have been his 85th birthday on March 20th. And so, it's a really bittersweet moment for us. And so, we're appreciative of all of the support and the interest in Brian Mulroney and his legacy, to be honest. And so, what can I say? I'm thankful. And yes, it was a pretty cool poll. 83% of people to agree on something. That's really cool. Had they polled his family, it would have been 100% support. That we thought he did a great job. So, it's been pretty cool.
And I mean, even you mentioned kind of the international, so to speak, recognition that he's been receiving, not just domestically here in Canada. I was talking to some journalists and media personalities in the US. They were posting photos with your father and just talking about again how, I think a lot of what people have been mentioning, and even from Jean Chrétien as well, people, it's just that like traditional kind of politics, how your father would call people if they had a special occasion, something along those lines. I guess just from what you knew about your father and from, the type of person that he was, what do you think he would make of all this recognition that he's receiving?
He has a big, big smile on his face looking down on us. He is, he spent his political currency. He left as the least popular prime minister in Canadian history. You know, I went to elementary school, middle school, people were joking, hey Mulroney, the GST. And every single day that was a popular joke at the time. And now we're shaking hands with hundreds and thousands of Canadians that are coming across and saying thank you to your dad for doing what was right at the time. And he always said that what we're seeing now is his leadership and what he thought was right is coming to fruition and in fact was right. It's what the country needed. Sometimes medicine doesn't necessarily taste very good going down. And what we're seeing is that at the time Canada needed that medicine, free trade, GST, the acid rain treaty. We're seeing some big ticket items uh, that were he was the architect of, and we're seeing their impact today. So I guess we're really thankful for everything that that we've heard from people coming through. And so, yeah, what would he be thinking today? He'd have a big smile on his face looking down on us.
And just lastly here, before we conclude, because of course, in politics, there's always going to be various perspectives, specifically opinions on different people. But as we've been talking about your father, particularly in recent weeks since his passing, people have been coming together. They've been talking about the positive legacy that he's left behind. But what do you want if there's, one or two things for people to kind of keep with them? What do you want people to kind of remember about the legacy that he leaves?
Just because somebody is your opponent doesn't make them your enemy. And I think that that's a really important thing. Um, Everybody has different priorities in life. And it's very important to understand that your perspective might be rooted in facts and might be rooted in reason. But oftentimes just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't make them a bad person. And my father was going through a lot. His health was weak, and he got a request to talk about a former political opponent, Ed Broadbent, who passed away in January. I was taking him from hospital appointment to hospital appointment. I knew exactly how weak he was. And I was like, you know what, Dad, I don't know if it's a great idea to go on live television right now to be talking about a former NDP leader. This wasn't his best friend. And he went on there and he talked so perfectly, so eloquently. And so I think it's really important to remember his legacy, that just because somebody was his opponent doesn't mean he wasn't his friend. And if we could go ahead and copy and paste that into 2024 and beyond, he'd be very proud. We as a family would be very proud of that.
All right, we'll leave our conversation there. Nicolas Mulroney, thank you so much. We are all thinking of you and about the legacy he leaves behind. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Wyatt, thanks so much, and keep up the great work.